Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. When you think of ancient Egypt, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's those magnificent, colossal pyramids standing against the desert sky, right? The Great Pyramids of Giza, the Step Pyramid of Djoser. They're the ultimate symbols of pharaonic power. But have you ever wondered, when did they stop building them? And more importantly, why? Today, we're traveling back in time, specifically to a pivotal moment around 3,500 years ago, or 1500 BCE. This isn't just a random date. This period marks a massive turning point in Egyptian history, the end of the grand era of royal pyramid construction. The story of why the pharaohs gave up on their most iconic monuments is a fascinating tale of innovation, religion, and a very practical problem: tomb raiders. So get comfortable, because we're about to uncover the mystery behind the last royal pyramid and explore the dawn of a new age in ancient Egypt, the Valley of the Kings. Before we jump to the end, let's quickly set the stage. The tradition of pyramid building didn't just appear overnight. It evolved over centuries. It all started around 2630 BCE with the visionary architect Imhotep, who designed the Step Pyramid for King Djoser. This wasn't a true smooth-sided pyramid, but a stack of 6 mastabas, or flat-roofed tombs, one on top of the other. It was revolutionary, a stairway to the heavens for the pharaoh's soul. This innovation kicked off what we call the Old Kingdom, or the Age of the Pyramids. Pharaohs like Sneferu experimented with the design, leading to the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid. And finally, his son Khufu perfected it with the Great Pyramid of Giza. For nearly 1,000 years, the pyramid was the ultimate royal burial statement. It was a physical manifestation of the sun's rays, a resurrection machine, and a beacon of the king's divine power, visible for miles around. But these massive projects were incredibly resource-intensive. They required a huge workforce, immense wealth, and a stable, centralized government to organize it all. After the glory of the Old Kingdom, Egypt went through periods of instability. Pyramid building continued in the Middle Kingdom, but the pyramids were often smaller and sometimes built with a core of mud brick instead of solid stone. They were impressive, but they didn't quite match the scale of their Giza ancestors. And all through this time, from the grandest to the more modest, the pyramids faced one relentless enemy: grave robbers. Despite hidden entrances, false corridors, and massive stone plugs, nearly every pyramid was eventually plundered, its treasures stolen, and the sanctity of the royal burial disturbed. This is a crucial point to remember as we move forward in our story. Now, let's fast forward to our key moment, around 1550 BCE. Egypt is entering a new, glorious era known as the New Kingdom. This is the age of legendary pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Tutankhamun, and Ramesses the Great. It's a time of immense wealth, imperial expansion, and monumental construction, but with one major change. The last royal pyramid built in the grand tradition was for a pharaoh named Ahmose-Fi. Ahmose was a pivotal figure. He was the founder of the 18th dynasty and the New Kingdom itself. He was the one who drove out the Hyksos, foreign rulers who had controlled northern Egypt, and reunified the country. You'd think a king of his stature would want to celebrate his victory with the biggest, most magnificent pyramid ever seen, right? Well, he did build a pyramid. It's located at Abydos, a very ancient and sacred religious site. But Ahmose's pyramid was different. While it was the last major royal pyramid, it signaled the end of an era. It was constructed using a core of rubble and sand, encased in limestone. Unfortunately, today, it's little more than a pile of debris, about 10 meters high. It was a far cry from the enduring stone mountains of Giza. Interestingly, Ahmose's actual tomb has never been found. Some scholars believe he wasn't even buried in his Abydos pyramid, but that it served as a cenotaph, a symbolic monument. His mummy was found in a royal cache at Deir el-Bahri, reburied with other pharaohs to protect them from robbers. And that brings us to the great shift. So, why did the pharaohs, after a millennium of tradition, suddenly abandon the pyramid? The primary reason seems to be security. The pyramids, for all their grandeur, were essentially giant, glittering billboards advertising enormous wealth buried here. Despite the builders' best efforts with traps and secret chambers, the allure of gold, jewels, and royal artifacts was just too strong. The problem of tomb robbing was rampant and deeply unsettling for the Egyptians, who believed the preservation of the body and the funerary goods was essential for the afterlife. The pharaohs of the new kingdom needed a new strategy. They decided that instead of building up, they would dig down. Instead of advertising their final resting place, they would conceal it. Their solution was to move their necropolis, their city of the dead, hundreds of miles south to a remote, desolate valley on the west bank of the Nile, across from the capital city of Thebes, which we know today as Luxor. This place would become the Valley of the Kings. Here, instead of building pyramids, royal architects and workers would spend years carving intricate tombs deep into the limestone cliffs. The entrances would be hidden, buried under rubble, their locations kept a closely guarded secret. The goal was no longer ostentatious display, but eternal security. The religious focus also shifted. The pyramid shape represented the primeval mound of creation and the rays of the sun god Ra. In the new kingdom, while Ra was still important, the theology of the underworld, ruled by the god Osiris, became more prominent. The journey through the underworld, depicted in stunning detail on the tomb walls in the Valley of the Kings, was central. The tomb itself became a microcosm of this underworld, a secure vessel to ensure the pharaoh's rebirth as Osiris. So, when we say 3,500 years ago was the end of the Pyramid Age, we mean the end of royal pyramids. It's fascinating to think that by the time of King Tutankhamun, around 1330 BCE, the Great Pyramids of Giza were already over 200 years old. To him, they would have been as ancient as the Roman Colosseum is to us today. They were already ancient wonders of a bygone era. However, the pyramid shape didn't vanish entirely, it just went private. While the pharaohs were hiding their tombs in the Valley of the Kings, high-ranking officials and skilled craftsmen, the very people who built the royal tombs began to build small, steep-sided pyramids on top of their own tombs in the nearby workers' village of Deir el-Medina. These pyramidions were typically just a few meters high, made of mud brick, and topped with a limestone capstone. They weren't tombs themselves, but superstructures built on top of the underground burial chambers. They served as a small chapel and a marker for the tomb, continuing the solar symbolism on a personal scale. So the pyramid idea was democratized, in a way, becoming a status symbol for the elite, not just the king. This shift from pyramids to hidden tombs represents a profound change in the Egyptian mindset. In the Old Kingdom, the pharaoh was a god-king, a remote and divine being whose monument dominated the landscape. His connection to the gods was made visible for all to see. In the New Kingdom, the pharaoh was still divine, but he was also a general, an emperor, a statesman. The focus of their monumental building projects shifted from their own tombs to massive temples dedicated to the gods, like the Karnak and Luxor temples. These temples were the new public face of royal power and piety. The pharaoh's eternal home, meanwhile, became a private, secret affair. It was an admission that even a god-king couldn't outsmart a determined thief with a giant stone landmark. And were they successful? Well, yes and no. The Valley of the Kings did a much better job of protecting its residents than the pyramids ever did. For centuries, many tombs remained sealed. But eventually, over the course of 1,000 years, the secret locations were lost or leaked. and most of them were also plundered in antiquity. The great exception, of course, is the tomb of Tutankhamun. Its discovery by Howard Carter in 1922 was a worldwide sensation precisely because it was one of the very few that was found almost completely intact. It gave us our only real glimpse into the sheer opulence that would have been placed inside the tomb of a New Kingdom pharaoh, and Tutankhamun was a relatively minor king. Imagine what treasures were buried with giants like Ramesses the Great. So, to wrap it all up, 3,500 years ago, ancient Egypt closed the book on its most famous chapter of construction. The age of building massive pyramids for pharaohs concluded with Ahmose around 1550 BCE. This wasn't because they ran out of money or skill. The New Kingdom was wealthier than ever. It was a deliberate, strategic pivot driven by the practical need to protect the royal mummies and their treasures from grave robbers. The pharaohs traded the conspicuous, heaven-reaching pyramid for the secret subterranean tomb in the Valley of the Kings, shifting their architectural focus from personal monuments to grand public temples. It was the end of one incredible tradition and the beginning of another. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. What do you find more fascinating, the giant pyramids or the hidden tombs of the Valley of the Kings? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into ancient history. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.